Hey everybody, it's Chad from One Acre Farms. Happy Halloween! The video is a little late this week, and I'll explain to you why it's a little late when we'll take a gander at what's going on back there, so stick around. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of this video, and once you hit that subscribe button, it'll turn into a bell. Hit that bell as well so that you get notified when we have a video come out. We try to do videos every Tuesday or ish. This week we had some crazy snow as well as really, really cold temperatures. Like if I lean back, it might focus. Yeah, out there. So you can see out in the pumpkin patch area, it is quite snowy. This week we had 2 days of really dumping snow. Here we had like 2 6-inch days with a melt in between. So maybe about, I'll say 10-ish inches of accumulation over the course of 2 days, as well as cold temperatures. We set 2 records for lowest high temperature on those particular days, on the 29th and the 30th, or the 28th and the 30th, one of those two. So our high was only like 7 degrees or something, so crazy cold. And that just really prevented me from wanting to go outside or do anything. I get kind of catatonic in the cold, and I just really don't want to do anything other than hunker down and stay warm. It was a good opportunity to hang out with the kiddo, though. So this week I'm going to answer a question that I believe it was Don Anderson asked. Sorry, Don, I didn't get back to you initially on that comment, but because I knew I was going to do a video about it. So maybe let's go ahead and throw this out there for those of you who watch the videos. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, go ahead and comment below with that question you'd like me to answer. I don't guarantee that I will know the answer. I might have to do some Googling myself to find the answer, and then I'll regurgitate that information with my own twist on it as best as I can. I'm definitely still learning. I learn every single year, but maybe I've made a mistake that caused me to learn from it, and I can help you out with the wisdom of my mistakes. So anyway, on to Don's question. So Don asked, why is it important to not have sticks inside of your pumpkin patch, or why don't you want like woody compost or things with a high wood content to be put into your pumpkin patch? And that's a really good question. It's one that I had to look into my very first year, and then into my second year as well. As a competitive or a giant grower, or even just a gardener, maybe if you're just a gardener and you're trying to have a really good garden, you try not to put large chunks of wood chips or mulch with not mulch or compost that has a lot of chips or wood product in it, because that ties up your nitrogen. And nitrogen is one of the main components that your plants need to grow. So if you have, let's say you get a compost, and a large portion of that compost when they were making it, was like pulverized wood or chopped up wood, or what's the word, shredded. If it was like a tree company and they put it through the chipper and then they sold their chips to a compost company, they'll, put all of that together. They'll mound it with different things, whatever your company has as a mix, and then they will sell that as compost during time, after time passes, and it breaks down a little bit. Depending upon the place, they have different standards of what they will send out as finished compost. So a few years ago, I bought some compost that had, I'll say, like grape-sized chunks of wood in it, and that was not good at all. And I, of course, me being me, I'm like, I gotta, work with it right now. So I tilted into the pumpkin patch, and that was really a disservice to me, because when that wood breaks down, it needs nitrogen. So those are like high carbon, and I might be butchering this, but your wood is a high carbon element, or a high carbon thing, we'll say. And for that to break down, the bacteria and whatnot need nitrogen to help break that down. So instead of having, we'll say, like naked dirt, where if you put nitrogen into it, that only the plants will absorb. You're adding something else that will feed off of the nitrogen you're trying to supply to your plants. In like most garden type of situations, it's probably not a huge deal. But if you are really trying to get serious with your garden or with your pumpkin patch or whatnot, you don't want to actively add large amounts of wood into your soil, because that's what will happen. That will tie up your nitrogen. It's not insurmountable. You will have to end up fertilizing with a lot more nitrogen to overcome the nitrogen that is being pulled away from your soil, pulled away from your plants, but you can overcome it. The best thing to do is just make sure that you're getting your compost from a source that screens it. So like this year that I was supposed to get it delivered, but that has definitely put a hamper on that. So hopefully maybe in the next week or so, I'll be able to get the compost. And what I did was I drove to the place and I looked at it, and I put my hands in there and I rifled through it, and I made sure that there was no significant amount of wood chips inside that compost pile that I would be purchasing from. And where I'm ordering from, it's just a local nursery that orders from a compost manufacturer here in Denver. They have several grades, so I went through and I was like rummaging through the different grades of the different piles of compost, and there was a few that had a large amount of wood in them. The compost that I'm getting is primarily composed of like dairy manure, so it was dairy manure, landscaping, so there was a wood element to it, but it was decomposed and broken down so much it's really inconsequential, especially if I'm able to hopefully get it into the pumpkin patch and till it in now. So let's say I do it in November, so you have like November, December, January, February, March, April, so 5 or 6 months for that any residual wood to decompose and break down the rest of the winter. But it's even more important to make sure that you just know what's going in there. So maybe you don't mix it until springtime. If you mix that in springtime, if you look at it on a scale of 1 to 10, and nitrogen being available to your plants, you want a 10. If you mix in just a little bit of wood, maybe that drops it down to 9. If it's a little bit more wood, then you're down to 8. And if you're throwing in a compost that it's tons of wood, then you're at like a 4. So you'll have to counteract that with your fertilization so that you're giving your plant the most, the best fertilization that it needs, or rather, that sounded silly. You're giving the plant what it needs. So you have to counteract what's being stolen from the plant and upping that to give it what it needs. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's it. I think that'll wrap up this here video on that. Hopefully soon, again, once the snow melts, I'm going to drag those tanks into the garage and we'll start kind of drilling some holes in them. Speaking of, I need to send that place an email. The bottom of those conical tanks didn't have a bulkhead in it, and they were supposed to send me bulkheads. And then now that I say that out loud, I remember that it's been a few weeks and I don't have those bulkheads. So I need to be giving them a call or sending them an email and asking what's up with that. So I want to do that. I have a handful of things that I've gotten in the mail that I haven't showed you guys yet that I would like to show and share. And a bunch of other stuff. I got more pumpkin seeds, so I'm also going to include everybody that sent bubbles. I've gotten 2 bubbles this week. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. Keep them coming if you want those seeds. Some wolf pumpkins. I'll show you what those are next week. It's basically a jack-o'-lantern that has the giant stems. You probably have seen them. I think they're super cool, and I got some pumpkins for us to carve. Maybe due to the snow, I don't know if we'll get many trick-or-treaters, but I'll save those seeds. I'll dry them, and I'll throw them in the bubbles this year too. So you'll have some Atlantic Giants, and then we'll have some Big Macs, jack-o'-lantern type pumpkins that I'll have, maybe a 20-pound pumpkin, but then a stem that's bigger than one of the giant pumpkins. So those are really cool. And then any gourd seeds, if I have some salvageable gourd seeds from any of those small gourds, I'll throw those in as well. But that's it. We really appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully we'll have some little better content next week. And if I get a lot of questions, maybe I'll start just doing like once a week. I'll answer a question in a little bit shorter of a format. So I'm not trying to fluff out the video a little bit and getting kind of wordy with my answers, but I can drop them in the normal routine of the videos. So I hope that you guys have a happy Halloween. Thank you for watching the video. Please consider sharing the videos. It'd be really cool if we could get to 1,000 subscribers. We're a pretty niche channel, so I know there's not a ton of people that are like, oh my gosh, I got to watch some giant pumpkin content on YouTube. We're a very select group of nerds, us giant pumpkin people. But hey, that's what makes us special, unique, and fun, and everybody else, on them. But thanks for watching. Again, make sure you subscribe, share the videos. We'll catch you next week.